The universe we're introduced to in the Transformers lore is vast and mysterious. The long-running battle between good and evil, and the power struggle which resulted because of it, tested the morals of several people. However, the Autobots remain strong. With their infinite wisdom, indomitable willpower, and huge strength, every Autobot we meet throughout the entire lore of Transformers is a force to be reckoned with. So if you're a big fan, then join us as we dive into the lore of 12 of the most powerful Autobots and learn what makes them a formidable foe. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Optimus Prime. If we're going to talk about all the strongest Autobots in the Transformers lore, then we have to start with the leader of the Autobots himself, Prime. Born as in most iterations of the character, he is the main protagonist of the franchise, and he has to protect the entirety of humanity from the evil robots known as the Decepticons. Did you guys know that he's the last of the Prime dynasty? Yes, he's part of this long line of ancient Autobots who were one of the heralds of Primus. Now, Orion, in all of these versions, starts off as a simple security personnel, a regular guy. His life would be mundane, but then he would finally realize that destiny had a higher calling for him, and he would accept. And boom! Now we have Optimus Prime, the most powerful Autobot. This role came with a lot of power and responsibility, and despite not knowing what kind of experiences he would have, Optimus gladly took up the challenge. Over the years, every time we see Optimus Prime on screen, we just know that there's going to be an epic fight, and he disappoints us with some brutally short exchange. He's shown time and time again that he's just on a different level when it comes to his power. While sure, his rifle, Energon Axe, Ion Blaster, swords, and near immortality are all great strengths, I think we can all agree his greatest strength is his strength of character. A true leader is one who knows how to be gentle even when it's hard, and Optimus is that guy. He knows when to be gentle and when to be merciful, and when I was a child, I thought that it was absolutely stupid that he would let go of the Decepticons, even though he could just be done with them. Now as a grown-up, I've come to appreciate that side of him quite a bit. There's power in doing the right thing, even if the whole world thinks it's a weakness. Omega Supreme. Right after Optimus Prime, the biggest weapon that the Autobots have in their arsenal has to be Omega Supreme. Built like a mountain, this guy is not a fan of words. But no worries, his immense firepower will surely have you second-guessing ever crossing him again. Since he's such a vital component to the Autobots' defense, that's why he usually comes out last. This could be why he has such a grim personality and approach to all things social. And if Omega Supreme is called, even the Decepticons shake in their boots. Why, you ask? Well, Omega Supreme happens to be the last survivor of the Guardian robots. Guardians, Omega Sentinels, GADEPs, and Omega Destructors were once the peacekeepers of Cybertron. They were extremely powerful, and definitely went up against the Decepticons several times during the Third Cybertronian War. However, in the modern era, we don't get to see them around anymore, except for Omega Supreme. He's one of the very few residents of Cybertron who remembered the time that reigned in the place before the two civil wars. In fact, Omega Supreme played a very crucial role when Cybertron first started expanding. He visited other worlds because he was friends with the Constructicons. That friendship, however, didn't last long, because the Constructicons soon turned to villainy. I think the coolest part about Omega Supreme has to be his transformation. He literally has 3 separate units that come together and build him up from scratch. Since he's effectively the last man standing in his group, he's somewhat infamous for prioritizing the mission in a very robotic way. This could be because of his age as well. He's over 1,000,000 years old, and while yes, that makes you a valuable asset on the battlefield, that's gotta leave you some emotional scars, right? However, don't let that stoicism fool you into thinking that he doesn't care about his teammates. Every time he achieves something by using his immense strength, he practically drains bits of his mortality to accomplish that. So in a way, Omega Supreme burns everyone out while also burning himself out for others. That's a rather poignant way of looking at this one-man army, isn't it? He's not the only weapon on the Autobots team though, because here we have our next member, Metroplex. Omega Supreme is definitely interesting, I won't deny him that. But even he is dwarfed by Metroplex. Metroplex is what you call a city former, which, I'm sure you guys have guessed already, means his alternate mode is a literal city. Metroplex is one of the 13 colony titans, and it implies that he's the first of his kind. While his efforts are slow and infrequent, given how big he is, there's no questioning his loyalty. He is an absolute giant, extremely brave, versatile, and self-sacrificing. He's willing to give everything for the Autobots, even if it means that he would have to lay down his life for them. However, when it comes to his general attitude, it's not the brightest. He's wrecked in his core. He believes that he could and should be doing more, even though he's doing enough. This is something I believe a lot of us have felt, and despite all our best efforts, we have felt small and hopeless. And just like our friends, the Autobots always ensure Metroplex knows he's doing more than enough, and they take immense comfort in knowing he's ready to back them up anytime. He's extremely modest about his powers, and his patience is practically limitless, thanks to his alternate mode. Since he's this hulking giant of a transformer, of course, his nemesis has to be something along those lines, right? Well, Metroplex's biggest nemesis is Trypticon from the Decepticons, who's another Titan Transformer just like him. Now, when it comes to Metroplex, he's made of 3 different components, namely Scamper, Six Gun, and Slammer. Using these comparatively normal-sized components, he defends and patrols his territory day and night. Metroplex is seen through the Transformers cartoon series as either an independent base or a part of the Scramble City. With that being said, let me tell you guys about his powers. There are literally no Autobots out there that can compare to his size and strength. His cannon blast can easily turn mountains into dust. While all this is fine and dandy, it's difficult for Metroplex to go from one form to the rest, given how big he is. He literally requires a transformation cog to convert into his robot mode. Fortress Maximus. When you see Fortress Maximus in action, the first thing you think is, wow, he looks tired. Fortress Maximus has been in Cybertron and facing the conflicts of the war for a really long time. He really doesn't have it in him to continue fighting. However, despite his tiredness and his wishes to take a long retirement, whenever things go south, Fortress Maximus is ready to fight. He's a pacifist, but that too has its limits. Something that Decepticons learned firsthand when he defended innocent people from their conquest with everything in his vast arsenal. Now, other than being extremely handy with his weapons, Maximus is extremely intimidating at first glance. In a lot of universes, he's portrayed to be a 3-part headmaster. What's that, you ask? Well, Fortress Maximus has a smaller robot named Cerebros as his head. They're binarily bonded together. As for Cerebros, he's either a bonded organic or a Titan Master Emissary. In other universes, Fortress is a smaller being who reaches his biggest form as Fortress Maximus. He also has a component robot known as Cog. Vector Prime. Primus, the great god of Cybertron, created 13 primes to be his guardian. Out of them, Vector Prime was the guardian of space and time. Records have stated that Vector is 25 million years old, but if you asked him, he would tell you that he's 9 billion years old. This clockwork-covered transformer has been around for so long that several, and I mean it, several timelines think of him as the first Autobot. Now, given his age, you might think that he's grown a little senile, but let me tell you, he's still extremely powerful. He can easily warp through space and time even now, although given how old he is, excessive use of such power does severely weaken him. Over the years, using his powers, Vector Prime has traveled through the multiverse at will, recording countless events of many realities. Now, we know that Orion Pax became Optimus Prime after he got the Matrix of Leadership, yes? Well, turns out Vector Prime also once held the Matrix. However, his work as the guardian of space and time took him away from Cybertron for millions of years. While his job allowed him to protect Cybertron from several terrifying dangers, it's taken a toll on him, making him extremely disconnected from his race. The way he speaks is archaic, and often people think of him as an ancient relic instead of a powerful guardian. This has come to Vector's aid several times as he went out on missions to protect Cybertron. While the disconnect between his culture and race is extremely painful, Vector's loyalty and love for the place are extremely evident. He never forgets that his job, although lonely, is how so many strange modern creatures can survive throughout the multiverse. He's also the one who created the Recon Minicon team, which we've heard so much about.
Meet Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus. While Optimus Prime is at the top of our list for good reason, it could very well be that our boy Optimus is weaker in front of Ultra Magnus. They have a lot of similarities from the get-go, such as his alternate mode being a white version of Optimus. With a shoulder-mounted blaster, he's even taller than Optimus. However, while Optimus is a leader, Magnus, despite his powers, is a soldier at heart. He doesn't like giving orders, preferring to take them instead. He also doesn't like higher responsibilities, and always avoids them when opportunities are presented to him. While he's strong, selfless, dependable, and courageous, Ultra Magnus' biggest enemy is his mind. He believes he's only a soldier and nothing else. He's more than willing to sacrifice himself if it means something good will come out of it. Because of that, he always throws himself at the larger threat. Now, there's no denying that this behavior is a little reckless, but this is why both Autobots and Decepticons respect him so much. His self-sacrifice and courage are truly commendable. So when you look at Ultra Magnus, even though he's like Optimus Prime, think of him as the less dad version of the latter. In a lot of different continuities, he's described to be Optimus Prime's superior or brother. Well, that's definitely an interesting switch of who he is as a character. My most interesting fun fact for Magnus has to be his weapon in Transformers Animated. He wielded a hammer that summoned lightning. So yes, he's very much like Thor, someone without a lot of bedside manners, but ready to throw hands for the safety of comrades.
Whoa, little Mexican standoff we got here.
Weapon.
Ironhide. I'm sure a lot of us remember Ironhide from the 2007 film, and why wouldn't we? The original weapon specialist of Optimus' team was one of the first Autobots ever introduced to us. He's one of the toughest and oldest Autobots in Optimus' team. Have you heard the saying, they don't build things to last anymore? Yeah, well, with a powerful layer of alloy on him, Ironhide is an older model, but oh boy, can he last. He doesn't enjoy talking for talking's sake, and often comes off as rough around the edges. But deep down, he's an optimistic and upbeat person. His most distinctive feature has to be the water gun. Although the name makes you think it only shoots out water, in reality, Ironhide's gun can shoot any type of liquid. If he had to pick a particular ammo though, Ironhide prefers using liquid nitrogen. Other than that, acids and mortars have also made several comebacks. Now, when he's in his vehicle mode and wants to become his robot form, a separate component, known as the one-box component, is seen to be split. In some universe, Ironhide can actually join hands quite literally with other Autobots, namely the one time he joined with Optimus Prime and created Optimus Maximus. While he's not the best strategist out there, let's be real, no one gets their hands dirty as willingly as he does, and we love him for that. In the movies, Ironhide remains the same lovable, action-first, talk-later guy. He's fought with some of the strongest Decepticons and managed to live. He died in Transformers: Dark of the Moon, but he will never be forgotten. He was also considered to be the second in command whenever Optimus was not around, which is the greatest respect anyone could get. Grimlock. The Dinobots are extremely feisty, so of course, if someone can manage to become their leader, you gotta admit that character's probably just as ferocious, if not more. And Grimlock is exactly that. Both Autobots and Decepticons have a hard time telling whose side he's actually on. A lot of Autobots wondered why Grimlock was even on their side in the first place, given how his moral compass pointed to the Decepticons. He doesn't care about wisdom or knowledge, he simply cares about power. Instead of trying to solve a problem, his instinct is to slice through it with his Energon sword, or even eat it with his bare hands. Now, here's the sitch. Everyone, including Optimus, knows that Grimlock does not like the leader, but he would never try to kill the leader unless he thought he could get away with it. So why is Grimlock helping the Autobots? Well, the answer is simple. He actually hates people who abuse their strength. So no matter how ferocious and absolutely out-of-pocket Grimlock behaves, when things get tough, he always shows up next to the Autobots, supporting them through thick and thin. Grimlock is an extremely powerful Transformer in general. He's one of the very few who can stand toe-to-toe when facing off against Optimus Prime and Megatron. Now, I admit it's a bit goofy when he changes into a dinosaur, but that goofiness gets thrown out the window the moment you see him wreak absolute carnage wherever he goes. RC. One of the most iconic female Transformers has to be RC, who we got to see on the big screen in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. While it's evident to think of her as one of the weaker ones, probably because of her gender and pretty pink color, don't even try that in your worst nightmare. She'll be able to strike you down with her swords even before you can blink. She's one of the most ruthless warriors amongst the Autobots and has to be the best sharpshooter of the lot. She's ferocious and deathly protective of her comrades and human companions, especially because she knows how weak they can be. Plus, she knows just how evil the Decepticons are, and she's not taking any risks about that. Her lithe physique allows her to escape from enemies after launching a barrage of deadly attacks in a matter of moments. She can also be a bit of a tech whiz, given how she managed to secure the Autobot city operational. At first, her vehicle mode used to be either a Cybertronian motorcycle or a car, but in the film, she was a Ducati 916 sport bike, which is absolutely suitable for her. She uses her acrobatic skills, speed, and smaller frame to gain the upper hand in fights, ensuring that even the biggest of enemies fall to her feet when she uses her two powerful guns. In the following movie, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, she ends up fighting Scourge and the Predacons, which definitely is no easy feat to accomplish. But hey, she stood her ground and she won.
Now, light our darkest hour.
Hot Rod. Rodimus Prime. Hot Rodimus, rather known as Hot Rod, is a headstrong and brash young man with his arrogance up to a T. In the original cartoon, he was supposed to be the successor of Optimus Prime after the latter had passed away. Despite his over-the-top attitude, he soon had his growth streak and became the hero we now hail him as. Finally, after he turned into Rodimus Prime, his powers got a huge upgrade, and he got a new trailer that could turn into a swanky battle station. Even as Rodimus Prime, he still suffers from a serious lack of confidence, as he's now the leader of the Autobots. But can you blame him? The shoes to fill could not have been bigger than that. But despite gaining powers as Rodimus, one thing that remained common between both his personas was his impatience. He just cannot wait. Whatever he wishes to do, whatever needs to be done, has to be done as soon as possible. This inability of sitting still has driven him to be extremely self-reliant and a go-getter, which is always a very good sign of a leader. Introduced in Transformers The Last Knight, while he had a very small role, he had quite the impact amongst the fans. He's able to create temporal disturbances, which is absolutely crazy. Slowing down time is what gave the Autobots the edge that they needed to defeat the Decepticons in the fight. As a vehicle, Hot Rod takes the form of a car in modern times, whereas in the Second World War era, he took the form of a military truck. Since he's extremely powerful, it's no surprise that he was tasked to be a protector for the Autobots. Blur. While in our list we've covered several Autobots who have brute strength, sheer raw power of any and every kind, my favorite Transformer has to be Blur, the fastest talking, the fastest thinking, and fastest driving data courier and messenger of Cybertron. He's like a Cybertronic racehorse if there existed such a thing. He can break sound barriers and leave a trail of dust clouds whenever he moves, and should he get ambushed, his electro blasters always come in handy. His handy-dandy blaster would fire their microcircuits in a matter of seconds, and whoever was after him would drop dead. Before the Cybertronian Civil War broke out, as you can guess, he was a racer. Because of his fast pace, Blur is extremely hard to understand when he starts talking. He's often portrayed as the target master, where his gun also transforms into a robot. His over-the-top nature, while entertaining, can sometimes end up becoming a liability when things get tough.
I'm getting really tired of you humans.
Mirage. Last on our list, and last to show up on screen, is our boy Mirage, who always reminds me of Michelangelo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's one of the most prominent heroes to travel to Earth. While his personality is definitely flamboyant and energetic, his powers are also pretty great. He can create holograms of himself, which is a very unique power to have. He can also turn himself invisible and become an exosuit that helps him survive Scourge's wrath. He's an extremely skilled fighter and is shown to have so many different disguises, like the 1994 Porsche Carrera, Ferrari F1 2000, and a garbage truck. But in the original cartoons, Mirage was a bit different. He was one of the affluent members of the Cybertronian society. He had his high-class friends and the finer things of life. However, when the war started, Mirage was forced to choose sides, and suddenly the old money boy was stuck with a band of commoners, who he had nothing in common with. A lot of Autobots didn't quite trust him, as Mirage made it evidently clear that war is beneath all the wise, knowledgeable beings. He also didn't like the way the Autobots retaliated, and sometimes he made it evident he just wanted everyone to get along. That's right, folks, Mirage was a Decepticon sympathizer. But there's the thing, despite all that, when the Autobots needed him, he always showed up. He was a field professional and a loyal friend. And remember Optimus Maximus? Well, Prowl's last-ditch effort also included Mirage in the picture, joining with Optimus Prime, Sunstreaker, Prowl, and Ironhide to save the galaxy. Goofy or pragmatic, you gotta admit, Mirage is a pretty formidable ally, and it's better he's on the Autobot side instead of with the Decepticons. Marvelous verdict. Looking at the band of Autobots, the only thing I can think of is hope can come from anywhere. Whether you were crafted by the gods, a security personnel officer, a racer, or a rich boy. When things went wrong, to uphold the symbol of resilience of the Cybertronian Civil War, the Autobots came from the lowest and the highest ranks of society, and joined hands to save the day and the universe. These 12 Autobots have shaped the world, faced countless battles, and have inspired all of us. They have proved that power is not just brute strength that bashes through everything. Sometimes it's all about courage, resilience, mercy, and teamwork. So, my fellow Autobot fans, before we roll out, let us know in the comments who your favorite Autobot is, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Roll out! And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone!